Bine ați venit la Conferința Vital 2024! Știm, Galați e departe pentru unii dintre voi, la fel cât de departe este și locul din care veniți voi pentru noi. Dar ne bucurăm că sunteți aici, sperăm că vă simțiți bine la Galați. Hai să ne ridicăm, să începem cu un timp de închinare și înainte să cântăm, te încurajez să îi saluți pe cei care sunt lângă tine. Spune o vorbă bună. Și haideți să începem seara asta cu entuziasm, cu cântări de laudă și declarăm crezul nostru. Credem în Dumnezeu Tatăl, Fiul și Duhul Sfânt. Credem că Iisus a trăit, a murit și a înviat și El merită toată gloria, așa că pregătiți să-i cântăm cu vocea, cu mâinile noastre, cu tot ce avem. Hai să ne închinăm Lui!
Ce duce în cer. Cred în iertare, răscumpărare, cred în numele lui Iisus Hristos. Eu cred în a lui răstignire, prin a lui sânge am fost iertat. Cred în a lui înviere, aleluia, El moartea biruit. Aducem toată lauda Tatălui Dumnezeu, Duhului Sfânt ce dă viață, Fiului ce-a biruit, Regelui ce a fost, este și va fi. Eu cred în numele lui Iisus. Eu cred în Iisus. Dar eu cred că El pregătește pentru mine un loc în cer, mai presus de orice gândire, de ce-am văzut sau ce am auzit. Cred că vine o zi în care se întoarce să-și ia mireasa, candela să o ții aprinsă, iată mielul celeu a înviat. Aducem toată lauda Tatălui Dumnezeu, Duhului Sfânt ce dă viață, Fiului ce-a biruit, Regelui ce a fost, este și va fi. Eu cred în numele lui Iisus. Da, eu cred, da, eu cred. Eu nu mă voi rușina de cuvântul lui Dumnezeu. Cum aș putea îndepărta de la Cel ce m-a salvat? Eu nu mă voi rușina de cuvântul lui Dumnezeu. Cum aș putea îndepărta de la Cel ce m-a salvat? Eu nu mă voi rușina de cuvântul lui Dumnezeu. Cum aș putea îndepărta de la Cel ce m-a salvat? Aducem toată lauda Tatălui Dumnezeu, Duhului Sfânt ce dă viață, Fiului ce-a biruit, Regelui ce a fost, este și va fi.
Bine ați venit la Galați, bine ați venit la Biserica Emanuel. Ne bucurăm pentru fiecare dintre voi, de aproape sau de departe, mai tineri ca mine sau mai tineri ca voi. Bine ați venit! Haideți să ne rugăm. Doamne, am declarat în această seară, prin cântecul din deschiderea acestei conferințe, că noi credem în Dumnezeu Tatăl, în Dumnezeu Fiul și în Dumnezeu Duhul Sfânt. Și, Doamne, în mijlocul unei lumi confuze, care de prea multe ori ne determină să nu mai știm cine sunt sau să ne lăsăm definiți în mod eronat de filozofii, ideologii sau circumstanțe în care ne găsim, în aceste zile ne oprim din alergarea noastră să privim la Cel care cândva ne-a avut pe planșeta Lui. Și am vrea să înțelegem ce ai avut Tu în minte atunci când ne-ai creat după chipul și asemănarea Ta. Și deși suntem deseori sub imperiul presiunilor care vin și încearcă să ne definească, am vrea să ne odihnim și să declarăm împreună cu David, care spune: Te laud, Tată, că sunt o făptură așa de minunată. Chiar tânjirile care sunt în noi și trăirile profunde care ne determină să adresăm asemenea întrebări arată că noi nu suntem o întâmplare, ci am fost creați să avem scop și semnificație. Și, Doamne, mă rog ca peste conferința aceasta să aduci revelație. Este așa de important ca generația aceasta de tineri să-și găsească identitatea în Creatorul care ne-a făcut după cum i-a plăcut Lui. Îți mulțumesc pentru fiecare tânăr care este aici, pentru toți cei care slujesc. Mă rog, Doamne, pentru o ungere proaspătă, revelație din Scripturi, scufundare în Scripturi și în Duhul Tău, în așa fel încât atunci când ne vom întoarce spre bisericile noastre, lucrările la care Tu ne-ai chemat, din identitatea aceasta pe care o avem în Tine, să curgă slujirea noastră de așa manieră încât numele Tău să fie proslăvit și oamenii să fie zidiți. Punem numele Tău peste această conferință și îți mulțumim pentru ceea ce Tu vei face, Tată, în numele Domnului nostru Iisus Hristos. Amin. Amin.
Și haideți să citim un psalm împreună. O parte a fiecărui verset trebuie să fie citită de voi și partea este foarte simplă. Se cheamă cam așa: căci în veac ține îndurarea Lui. E greu să ziceți asta? Ia să auzim. E foarte simplu. Hai să începem. Lăudați pe Domnul căci este bun. Lăudați pe Dumnezeul Dumnezeilor. Lăudați pe Domnul Domnilor. Pe Cel ce singur face mari minuni. Pe Cel ce a făcut cerurile cu pricepere. Pe Cel ce a întins pământul pe ape. Pe Cel ce a făcut luminătorii mari, soarele ca să stăpânească ziua, luna și stelele ca să stăpânească noaptea. Și hai să cântăm Lui: ce mare ești Tu! Ce mare ești Tu! Vom cânta: ce mare ești Tu! Toți vor vedea ce mare ești Dumnezeu. Ridică-ți mâinile și cântă Creatorului: ce mare ești Tu! Ce mare ești Tu. Vom cânta ce mare ești Tu. Toți vor vedea ce mare ești, Dumnezeu. Splendoare, splendoare de împărat, în slavă îmbrăcat, pământul va cânta. Pământul va cânta. Lumina-i haina sa, lumina-i haina sa, și noaptea nu va sta, fugind din fața sa, fugind. Hai să cântăm cu toată ființa Lui. Ce mare ești, ce mare ești Tu. Vom cânta ce mare ești Tu. Toți vor vedea ce mare ești, Dumnezeu. Chiar Fiul l-a făcut, în mâna Lui se ascund, sfârșit și început, sfârșit și început. Triul lui Dumnezeu, Triul lui Dumnezeu, Tatăl, Fiu și Fiu. El este leu și miel, El este leu și miel. Ce mare ești Tu. Vom cânta ce mare ești Tu. Toți vor vedea ce mare ești, Dumnezeu. Ce mare ești, ce mare ești, ce mare ești Tu. Vom cânta ce mare ești Tu. Toți vor vedea ce mare ești, Dumnezeu. Oh, numele Lui Sfânt, îl înălțăm cântând. Ce mare e al meu Dumnezeu. Oh, numele Lui Sfânt, îl înălțăm cântând. Ce mare e al meu Dumnezeu. Ce mare ești Tu. Vom cânta ce mare ești Tu. Toți vor vedea ce mare ești, Dumnezeu. Să repetăm refrenul, ce mare ești Tu. Ce mare ești Tu.
Vom cânta ce mare ești Tu. Toți vor vedea ce mare ești,
Dumnezeu. Noi ridicăm către cer, mâini curate spre singurul miel. Numai El e un Domn ce bun, ce mare e El și împreună cântăm. Toții cântăm. Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Domn peste toate, întreg pământul îl laudă. Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Domn peste toate, întreg pământul îl laudă. Noi ne ridicăm către cer, mâini curate spre singurul miel. El e un Domn minunat, numai El e un Domn minunat. Ce bun, ce mare e El și împreună cântăm. Toții cântăm. Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Domn peste toate, întreg pământul îl laudă. Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Domn peste toate, întreg pământul îl laudă. Și se înalță tot mai sus, e un ceresc spre gloria Lui. Și se înalță tot mai sus, e un ceresc spre gloria Lui. Și împreună cântăm, cu toții cântăm. Și împreună noi cântăm, și împreună cântăm, cu toții cântăm. Și împreună cântăm, și împreună cântăm. Toții cântăm. Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Domn peste toate, întreg pământul îl laudă. Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Domn peste toate, întreg pământul îl laudă. Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Domn peste toate, întreg pământul îl laudă. Sfânt e Dumnezeu, Domn peste toate, întreg pământul îl laudă. Întreg pământul îl laudă. El e sfânt și foarte vrednic de laudă și tot pământul este plin de slava Lui. Hai să ne rugăm, ridică-ți mâinile, adoră-L. Hai să stăm câteva clipe și să privim spre El. Hai să ne rugăm împreună. cu cel care este lângă tine acum, ca această conferință să fie una care să vorbească, să atingă viețile noastre, să ne puternicească și să fim de folos acasă. Hai să ne rugăm unii cu alții.
Amin. Puteți ocupa locurile. Bună seara și bine ați venit la conferința ID. Mă bucur atât de mult să fiu împreună cu dumneavoastră și m-am bucurat atât de mult să văd atât de multe persoane dragi mie și pentru cei care nu vă cunosc încă, abia aștept să-mi deveniți dragi. Mă bucur foarte mult că ați ales să spuneți da invitații de a veni din toate colțurile României la conferința ID. Numele meu este Bogdan Anton, sau pentru cum îmi zice soția mea, iubițicu-țicu, exact cu această voce. Mă bucur foarte mult să fiu gazda dumneavoastră în aceste zile. Aș vrea să încep prin a vă citi un verset care mi-a fost în minte și am meditat la el săptămânile astea și cred că este foarte potrivit pentru conferința noastră. Versetul este din Osea, capitolul 10, versetul 12 și spune așa: semănați dreptatea și secerați roada îndurării. Desțeleniți-vă un ogor nou, căci este vremea să-L căutați pe Domnul până când El va veni și va turna dreptatea peste voi. Desțeleniți-vă un ogor nou, căci este vremea să-L căutați pe Domnul până când El va veni și va turna dreptatea peste voi. Eu am născut în București și recunosc că nu eram familiar cu acest cuvânt de a desțeleni și am aflat că procedura asta de desțelenire este făcută atunci când avem un teren care nu a fost cultivat de mai mulți ani și probabil este plin de buruieni, probabil poate nu are nimic pe el și ca să putem planta o sămânță și o sămânță care să aducă rod, avem nevoie să-l arăm foarte adânc. Avem nevoie să-l desțelenim. Și despre asta este vorba în această conferință. O să fie un subiect foarte bun pentru inimile noastre și cred că Dumnezeu vrea să lucreze la inima noastră și cred că vrea să scoată la suprafață lucruri poate de care nici măcar nu suntem conștienți. Lucruri care poate sunt adânc înrădăcinate în noi și pe care El vrea să le scoată la suprafață. Haideți să fim gata să primim inima de tată a lui Dumnezeu. Și chiar aș vrea, pentru 10 secunde, 15 secunde, cu capul plecat, să spuneți o rugăciune, tu și Dumnezeu, invită-L pe Dumnezeu să îți desțelenească inima. să fii pregătit ca urmare a acestei conferințe să primești ceea ce Dumnezeu are pentru tine. Să scoată lucrurile alea care sunt adânci, să le scoată la suprafață, astfel încât inima noastră să fie pregătită să primească sămânța Evangheliei. Amin. Așa să ne ajute Dumnezeu. Pentru că vorbitorul nostru principal vorbește limba engleză, vă pune la dispoziție căști pe care le puteți folosi pentru traducere. Conținutul este important pentru inimile noastre și vrem să ne asigurăm că înțelegem tot ceea ce se vorbește. Așa că dacă nu ești sigur că înțelegi 100% din ceea ce se vorbește, nu ezita, avem căști suficiente, te invit să le folosești și dacă ai orice problemă cu partea de traducere, te invit să vorbești cu Lenuța Maxim. Este Lenuța Maxim aici în sală. Hai să vedem dacă te poți ridica. Este în spate, acolo, Lenuța. Orice problemă aveți cu partea de traducere, Lenuța, mulțumim. De asemenea, un alt anunț. Vrem să păstrăm sala asta curată, așa că vă invităm să nu intrați cu mâncare și cu băutură în sală. Bun, în continuare, vreau să-l invit pe Tino, care este coordonatorul rețelei de evangelizare în școli și îl invit pe el să vă spună mai multe ce vom face.
Salutare, eu sunt Tino Pește, sau cum îmi zice soția mea, ce mi-ai făcut mă acum? Așa că mă bucur să fiu cu voi acum, mai mult de tot. Așa cum s-a menționat aici în mai multe rânduri, mai mult te iubesc. Așa cum s-a menționat aici în mai multe rânduri, suntem din mai multe părți aici și sunt tare curios să vedem de unde și cum. De aceea vreau să facem ceva. Dacă ne-am salutat așa stânga-dreapta, vreau să ne salutăm față-spate. Ba mai mult decât salut față-spate, vreau să vă luați un partener, fie din față, fie din spate și pentru următoarele 7-10 minute este partenerul dumneavoastră. Așa că, rapid, dacă nu aveți, orientați-vă, domnul Aron. Haide! Stai acolo. Stai. Întrebați-vă de unde sunteți. Bun, timpul s-a terminat. Rămâneți cu partenerul acolo, nu plecați la locurile voastre. Vreau doar să faceți o cunoștință. Vă rog să alegeți un dispozitiv dintre cele două pe care le dețineți împreună. Deci un partener să scoată telefonul, probabil cel mai bun dintre voi, da? Ăla mai nou. Scoteți-l, pentru că vom folosi în această echipă, vom folosi telefoanele pentru a participa la o super competiție cu premii foarte interesante, da? Așa că, Denisa, dacă vom juca Kahoot, dacă n-ați mai jucat. Ia auziți aici, wow! Vă rog frumos să scanați codul, da? Atenție, sunteți împreună, da? În parteneriat. Și dacă nu aveți scanner, înseamnă că telefonul nu e bun pentru Kahoot. Glumesc. Dacă nu aveți scanner, vă rog intrați pe kahoot.it, pentru că Italia, și este codul acolo. Hai să vedem. Ursuleți și trebuie să ajungem la 100. Dacă nu ajungem la 100, nu mai continuăm. Hai să vedem. Suntem la 45%. Eu zic să vă alegeți numele corect, pentru că câștigătorii vor veni aici în față și vor fi celebrați. Așa că e pe bune. Haide, 70, încă puțin. Deja au început să se schimbe emoticoanele, nu mai fac niciun sens. Nu se mai înțelege nimic. Bun. Încă puțin înainte să începem. 80. Încă 20 de echipe. Hai să vedem. Curaj. Acum, dacă nu aveți coechipieri, puteți intra și singuri, bineînțeles. Hai să vedem. Vânt Golf 4. Sper să fie și câștigătorul. Mutați numărul B44. Hai să vedem. Cineva a ieșit, a intrat din nou. Ok, încă puțin. 88, numărul meu preferat. Eu zic că îi putem începe, da? 3. Ok, haide. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start. Nu sunt aici. Tino pe ăștia puși. Ok. Bun. Hai să vedem. Pe scurt, conferința ID, până acum totul e bine. Începem acum. Atenție foarte, foarte mare. Începem cu un poll. Din ce zona țării veniți, da? Sunteți în echipe. Votați culoarea, va apare pe telefoanele voastre. Culoarea răspunsului. Alegeți o zonă și câștigați. Răspunsul corect este Bucovina, în Moldova și închem o dată discuția asta. Nu, glumesc. Bun. Ia să vedem. Ia uite, din Bucovina și din Moldova sunt 40% prezenți. Haideți să-i aplaudăm, sunt cei mai mulți. Apoi, da, nu mai contează restul. Hai să vedem. Prima întrebare. Care este apostolul care a adus Evanghelia în ceea ce este astăzi România? Hai să vedem. Bun, mergem mai departe. 82, Andrei, corect. Așa. Hai să vedem. Familia Sulda conduce. Ok. Continuăm. Încă o întrebare. Atenție mare. Dublu de punctele. Care a fost tema conferinței Vital de anul trecut? Conferința ID, bineînțeles. Hai să vedem. Mai sunt 5 secunde. Dacă n-ați votat, vă rog, introduceți voturile. Ia să vedem noi. 79. Wow! Ați participat. Ia să vedem și ce se întâmplă. DVD a urcat pe primul loc. Foarte frumos. Mai departe, hai să vedem a treia întrebare. Sub ce nume este cunoscută biserica ce ne este gazdă? Vrem să onorăm biserica gazdă. Hai să vedem. Biserica Pentecostală Apostolică Emanuel Galați. Biserica Creștină Emanuel, Centru Creștin și numele meu preferat, Proveritas Emanuel. Oh! Centru Creștin, asta a furat multe puncte aici. Hai să vedem. Mai departe. Continuați, da? Cine zice că rămâne în el, trebuie să. Mă dau mai așa. Să lase pe mama și pe tatăl său. Așa ar trebui, dar nu se știe. Oh. Hai să vedem. Se schimbă și în funcție de timpul răspunsului. Dacă sunteți lenți, ca la fotbal, Cristian, n-ai ce să faci. Care este țara pe care Dave Patty o numește acasă? Statele Unite ale Americii, România, bineînțeles, că peste tot suntem acasă, Republica Cehă și Germania, iar răspunsul este Cehia. Oh! Și-a păstrat titlul incredibil. Câte rețele prin care ajungem la tineri are organizația Vital? Hai să vedem. Asta, ba nu asta. Ok, atenție mare, aceasta este penultima întrebare, cred. Oh, ok. Ce aproape este. Și ultima întrebare. Recunoașteți personajul? Este Dorin, oare? Să fie Flaviu cu ochii lui pătrunzători? Hai să vedem. Bogdan Anton, gazda dumneavoastră, podiumul. Locul 2. Rozilian, hai să vedem unde ești. Haideți. Aplauze, vă rugăm. Cred că nu e ea. Haideți, prieteni, curaj. Haideți sus aici. Cum vă simțiți? Fala portughez?
Eu falo português. Nume vine din Romanian, Brazilian.
Ah, și înseamnă ce?
România, Brazilian.
Rozilian. Am crezut că este vreo specie nouă de dinozaur sau ceva. Mă scuzați, vă rog. Ați câștigat câte un tricou Vital. Da, aplauze, vă rugăm. Știu că vă doreați de mult acest lucru. Și bineînțeles, ați mai câștigat un voucher pe EMAG. Dar vorbiți cu mine pentru asta. Super! Aplauze, vă rugăm. Și vă rog, împrieteniți-vă cu partenerul vostru, Bogdan.
Aplauze și pentru Tino. Mulțumim, Tino. Foarte fain jocul. Bun, în cadrul acestei conferințe vom avea 4 sesiuni plenare, o sesiune panel și 3 sloturi de seminare. Programul îl găsiți dacă îl scanați, acest cod, îl găsiți și pe spatele, îl găsiți și în program, îl găsiți și pe spatele mapei, îl găsiți și aici. Practic, știm programul, hai să fim la timp. Și în cadrul acestei conferințe, de asemenea, vă pune la dispoziție un timp de rugăciune transformațională. Și pentru asta vreau să-l invit pe Dorin să ne spună un pic mai multe despre ce înseamnă această idee de rugăciune transformațională.
Mulțumesc, Bogdan. La partea serioasă apar eu. Nu o să râdeți prea mult. Cine râde la urmă râde mai bine. Deja ați râs. Rugăciunea transformațională este ceea ce Conferința Vital va oferi în mod special în ziua de mâine pentru puțini dintre voi, din păcate, pentru că nu putem să procesăm atât de multe persoane, să zicem așa, într-un timp relativ scurt. Este o experiență foarte frumoasă, profundă. Va fi o întâlnire cel mai probabil 1 la 1, dacă ești băiat o să fii cu unul dintre băieții din Vital, dacă ești fată cu unul dintre fetele din Vital și în acel timp o să fie o rugăciune care te va conduce spre zone profunde ale vieții tale și vei descoperi ceea ce Dumnezeu vrea să aducă în inima ta. Spre exemplu, s-ar putea ca în această perioadă să te confrunți cu o problemă serioasă de identitate sau cu un păcat cu care te lupți. Să luăm, de exemplu, mândria. Și la timpul acela ne vom ruga și o să povestim despre de ce simțim aceste lucruri. Ne vom ruga, vom sta în cuvânt, vom asculta ceea ce Duhul Sfânt are să ne spună, astfel încât noi să putem rezolva problema în profunzimea ei. Și ceea ce este foarte interesant este că noi suntem doar niște asistenți, Duhul Sfânt, Iisus, ei sunt consilierii, Așa că nu veniți la niște consilieri specializați, veniți la oameni care vor fi alături de voi, se vor ruga împreună cu voi și Duhul Sfânt va aduce revelații, descoperiri în inima voastră. Eu personal am fost la un astfel de moment și beneficiul este maxim. Mai mulți de aici ați fost, așa că vă încurajez pe toți să vă înscrieți. În seara asta o să avem un link de înscrieri și mâine dimineață o să avem mai multe detalii despre cele 2 sloturi de mâine și pentru cei care vreți să rămâneți la sfârșitul conferinței sâmbătă, mai putem să oferim o sesiune de rugăciune transformațională. Pentru cei care nu veți putea să beneficiați în cadrul conferinței, o să ținem legătura cu voi, vrem să oferim rugăciune transformațională și pentru cei care nu ați beneficiat aici, dar vreți acasă, vom discuta despre modalitate. Cam atât acum. Mulțumesc, Bogdan.
Mulțumim, Dorin. Și vă încurajăm să vă înscrieți cât mai repede, pentru că locurile sunt foarte limitate și chiar este un timp de calitate pe care de care și eu am beneficiat în ultimele săptămâni și am fost foarte încântat de felul în care Dumnezeu a lucrat la viața mea. Bun, vorbitorul nostru principal este Dave Patty. El este o persoană care are o vastă experiență în lucrarea cu tinerii, conduce de peste 30 de ani o organizație care lucrează în centrul și estul Europei, cu peste 350 de oameni staff, lucrează cu tinerii. Este un om care are o experiență foarte, foarte mare, dar mai mult decât experiența asta, un lucru care mie personal îmi place la Dave, este o persoană pe care o văd destul de des. O văd la 6 luni, la 1 an, timp de mai mulți ani de zile. Și un lucru pe care l-am observat de fiecare dată este că el nu este doar o persoană care vorbește despre ucenicie, ci el face ucenicie. Și cum îmi dau seama de asta, de fiecare dată când are un mesaj, întotdeauna poveștile pe care le folosește sunt recente, sunt din ultimele săptămâni, sunt din ultimele luni. El este o persoană care nu doar vorbește despre cum să facă ucenici, ci trăiește și nu doar a trăit la un moment dat, ci trăiește în fiecare zi, în fiecare săptămână și pentru mine asta personal este lucrul ce îl califică cel mai mult să vorbească și să ne vorbească despre inima de Tatăl lui Dumnezeu. Așa că, în aplauzele noastre, îl invit pe Dave Patty să vină pe scenă.
It's a great privilege to be with you this whole weekend, and I'm amazed that you can understand my English and do this without translation. Now, some of you have earphones, so thank you for that. But I'm excited about what God has ahead for us. And I'm thankful to be with you who work with young people. And let me just say thank you for your amazing work. I think that work with young people is some of the most important work that's being done in the church, because we know that 90% of those who put their faith in Jesus do so before they're 21 years old, which means that the people that you're working with, that will be some of the most significant evangelistic fruit in your church and in your country. And we also know the young people are going through a lot of struggles these days. In fact, they say that this generation is the anxious generation. Do you have any anxious young people in your youth group? People who are struggling with problem inside, struggling with depression. And so you are a message of hope to the lost, and you're also a message of hope to the found as you shepherd them closer to Jesus Christ. So just thank you for that. And as you come into this weekend, I think you'll have a lot of small questions this weekend. Questions like, where's the bathroom in this place? It's, you have to go way downstairs to find it. Or what time is breakfast? Or where am I sleeping? Or you might be elbowing the person next to you and saying, what's the name of that cute girl from Transylvania over there, that I need to get to know? Can you tell me her name? So we have lots of small questions. And I hope you get answers to these questions. If not, you may be very uncomfortable in the meeting because you didn't find the bathroom. You might end up sleeping on the floor of the church rather than at home, or missing breakfast, or your entire life may come to an end because you never find out her name. So I want you to find the answers to the small questions, but you also will be asking big questions this weekend. and you may put them into words, and you may just ask them in your mind. You may ask them in all kinds of different ways, but there are 4 questions that I'm pretty sure every one of you will be asking at some time this weekend. Questions like, here's the first one, who am I? Who am I? And it might come in this form. You might look at someone else and say, he looks very confident and capable, and I'm not sure I feel that I am. Or she looks really cute and charming and has lots of friends, and I can't compare with that. And we often ask the question, what's my identity? Do I have value? Who am I supposed to be? Do I have anything to offer? So that first question, who am I? Second, am I loved? Does anyone here care about me? Do those who came from my church care about me? Do those who I meet new care about me? Do they think more of me than just a youth worker, but a person who they love? So am I loved? The third one, do you like me? So who am I? Am I loved? Do you like me? Do you know you can love someone without liking them? And we're always asking the question, am I disappointing you? Am I meeting your expectations? Do you enjoy being around me? Is there something I'm doing well, or am I just a failure? Do you like me? And the fourth question is, where do I fit? Where's my place? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? Is there a spot that God has designed for me, a place that I'm supposed to be? What's my future? What should I be doing next? Is there some place for me? And I think in some way, every one of you will be asking those questions this weekend. But even more, people in your youth group are asking lots of small questions, like, what are we doing on Friday night at youth group? And how much is the retreat going to cost? And who's in charge of music this week? They're asking lots of small questions. But even more, they're asking those big questions as well. Who am I? Am I loved? Do you like me? Do I have any place in this youth group, in this church, in this city, and in my life? And the answers to these questions actually can deeply impact your life. Like if the answer to the question of who am I is you're stupid, what's going to happen? Or if the answer to am I loved is, yeah, you're loved if you perform. Yeah, you're loved if you get lots done. Yeah, you're loved if you don't make mistakes. If the answer to do you like me is no, how will that impact us? And if the answer to where is my place is you don't have one, how does that impact you? Just a couple weeks ago, I was sitting with a really talented young 15-year-old who's grown up in the church from a good family. She's smart, she's talented, she's cute, but as I sat there with her parents, because they brought her to meet together with all of us, I looked down at her ankles. Her jeans ended right about here, and her ankles from here to her shoes were just cut up. It looked like she'd gone through razor blades, and she had gone through razor blades, and the razor blades were in her hands. And then I looked at her arms, and her arms were all cut up. And everywhere where there was bare skin, there were marks from her taking razor blades and cutting into herself. And as we sat there, this talented young girl, she wouldn't even catch my eye. She just looked forward, and she was like she was back in herself, somewhere really deep. And I said, Marta, what's your view on yourself? And she said, I hate myself. My life doesn't have any purpose. I'm fighting with wanting to kill myself. And she said, I feel better if I can punish myself with these cuts, because then I feel like at least I'm treating myself as I deserve. This is a girl who grew up in church. And she's not getting the answer to those key questions, and it's really affecting how she lives. But you're going to have some serious situations like that in your youth group, and then you're going to have a lot of situations that maybe seem trivial, Like, have you ever noticed that young people, their body doesn't grow at all the same rate? You know, sometimes they get really long legs before the rest of their torso takes up and you know, their face goes in different shapes. And my brother, his name is Steve, when he grew, his nose kind of outgrew the rest of his face for a while. It just grew faster. And so for a long time, he had this huge nose as the rest of his face caught up with his growing. Now, young people are not always the kindest to each other. Have you noticed that? Like if something is different about someone else, everyone's fine about pointing it out. And so pretty soon people said, Steve, you have such a big nose. Now, what's he going to do about that? So, you know, he made some joke back. But pretty soon they decided that was now his name. And they called him, instead of Steve, they called him the Nose. So who's this? Here's the Nose. And then they would start to make jokes like, Steve, could you turn your head sideways? We can't see anything. You're blocking the way. And then they would say, yeah, you came into the room, but your nose came about 2 minutes before you got there. It just got into the room ahead of you. And Steve would laugh, and he'd make jokes back. But pretty soon, this is how Steve always sat. He always sat like this. You know, like, how can I push it down? He'd turn his head sideways. He'd pull back. Because that message, all that joking, basically said to him, we don't like the way you are. You're funny. There's something wrong with you. Now, my brother is much older now, and he's very capable. But I still sometimes see him sitting like this, pushing down his nose. You know, it's hard to grow. The young people in your youth group have it tough. They're growing up in environments where there's lots of messages coming at them that tear them down. And how can we have a message that is different than that? Have you ever noticed? I used to tell my brother, Steve, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But that didn't really help. And I told Marta, you're beautiful and you're talented. Don't cut yourself. But just saying that didn't seem to answer her questions. And here's one of the questions that we'll be dealing with all weekend is, how do we answer the deepest questions that people have, the big questions, not just the small questions, in a way that the answer makes a difference, that it's not just, we love you, and they go, that's not what I feel, I'm not experiencing that. Because answering those questions is central to us and to the people we lead. Now, to make progress on that, we're going to have to talk about fathers. Now, this is really interesting. Why do we have to talk about fathers? Well, because fathers actually are a key voice or a father voice into those 4 big questions. It's huge. In fact, someone did I'll show you a picture of let's see if we can get this now. My family. Is this coming? This is my family. So you can see I'm a father, and my sons are fathers, so I'm a grandfather. By the way, tomorrow my son and my grandson are going to be here, so you get to meet them. And so, you know, I think a lot about fathering. I'm a father to a father, I'm a grandfather to grandsons and granddaughters. What does that mean? And also, I had a father. This is me when I was really young. By the way, I was born in the Philippines, so that's something that's really interesting about me. My dad was a missionary there, and you see me when I was young. But why are these different father voices so significant? Well, someone did a study once, and they found out that when fathers are engaged, kids get better grades in school. Isn't that crazy? There's less emotional distress. Adolescents who strongly identified with their fathers were 80% less likely to have been in jail and 75% less likely to become unwed parents. On the other hand, in father-absent homes, boys were more likely to be unhappy, sad, depressed, dependent, hyperactive. Girls who grew up in father-absent homes are more likely to become overdependent and have internalizing problems such as anxiety and depression. And actually, if you read the study, it goes on and on and on and on. Now, I'm not downplaying a mother's voice, which is very significant. But there's something unique about a father voice, about a father message, that is kind of reality creating. It's very significant for those core questions that we have in our minds. So I'm a dad. I've got sons. I had a dad. I love my mom too. But what is unique about that father voice? And that's one. And then we're going to ask the question. This is not totally working here. There we go. And by the way, you have a great book right here that we're going to start to move into. So you might want to open it right now. And our first question is, so if a father's voice is so important, what are fathers supposed to communicate? And why is their voice so important? In John 14, by the way, in John 14, God is called Father more times than in any other chapter of the entire Bible in John 14. We'll look tomorrow at maybe some of the reasons why. But Philip said this. He said, show us the Father and we'll be satisfied. What did he mean by that? Like there's some message we've got to get in a father voice that will settle us down and maybe answer some of those questions. So why is it so important? Well, I have to get this clicker working here. The question of what do we need from a father? And there are very interesting, there's 2 times in Scripture where we overhear God the Father talking to his Son. So I want to look at both of those because there are some interesting observations we can make. They're both in Matthew. They're also in other of the Gospels. Matthew 3, the baptism. So why don't you turn here, Matthew 3, verse 17. Jesus was baptized. Immediately he went up out of the water, and behold, the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and coming to rest on him. And behold, a voice came from heaven and said, this is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. I wonder what that was like for Jesus. He's being baptized, and his dad speaks for everyone to hear. And it's this proclamation. It's before Jesus has done anything. He hasn't even served yet. And he says, this is my beloved Son, with whom I'm well pleased. Oh. Now, there's one other time that we overhear the Father talking to the Son, and it's in Matthew 17. Now, this is a more private setting. Jesus has taken 3 of his closest disciples up on top of a mountain, and he's been transfigured to where he starts glowing like the sun. Beside him appears Moses and Elijah. And then Peter has this great idea. He says, Lord, if you wish, we'll just make 3 tents right here, and you'll be in each, Elijah, you get one, Moses, you get one, Jesus, you get one too. And while he was still speaking, verse 5, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, this is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. Now, do you notice anything as you're reading this? 2 times we overhear the Father talking to the Son. And he says almost exactly the same thing. 2 different settings, separated by several years. What would it be like if you got to observe a father-child relationship, a father-son or a father-daughter relationship, and you only observed it twice, and the father said the same thing both times? You might go, I wonder if he says it a lot. I wonder why he chose those words. I wonder if those words have special significance. This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. And then he says, listen to him. I think that there's some secrets in here, that those words have great significance, and that they actually represent the 4 streams of God's Father heart. The 4 things that he is always working to communicate to us and give us. And here they are. Actually, you're going to have to put this on. Why don't I let you guys in the back run that, and you just follow me. Is that okay? I just won't do this, and you can get on there. The first one is identity. And by the way, I think these 4 needs fulfill the most basic needs of my heart and my life. And they're almost like oxygen. Like, what would it be like if we just took all the oxygen out of this room? Well, I could be the best speaker. We could have the best music. It could be decorated so well. But if you don't have oxygen, you're out. You're either going to be running for the door or you're going to be falling over. In the same way, I think these 4 things are core needs of every person's soul, even non-Christians. And if we don't have them, we'll either be dead or we'll be fighting for them. So what are they? They are love. This is my son. Well, we should start with the first one. This is my son. Identity. You know who you are because whose you are. Whom I love. With him I'm well pleased. Pleasure. And then what's this last one? Because hold on the last one. Don't quite go to the last one yet. Because he says, listen to him. But remember, Peter was saying, Jesus, this is your place. Elijah, this is your place. Moses, this is your place. And then the Father said, no, you listen to my son. I really think, and you'll see this in another passage, this 4th thing he's communicating is place. I will define and defend my son's place. You're not going to tell my son where he needs to be. I will. I'm making a place for him. You listen to him. Identity, love, pleasure, and place. And as you go on, you'll see, and in your notes, we talk about these as being kind of the basic, we can continue with the PowerPoint, the basic needs of the soul. If you miss them, there'll be something that will be missing. And if you have them, you'll have stability and resources for every situation. And here's my goal, by the way, in these days. What would it be like if you had more of those Father resources in your life? And what would it be like if you were able to stream them, to pass them on to young men and women in your youth groups, to where they had that oxygen in their life? They were able to answer those 4 key questions. What would that be like? Well, let's go a little deeper and try to figure out what do these resources actually look like. And I want you to turn to John chapter 5. And it'll be best if you're following along with this in the Bible, because John 14 is the chapter with the most references to God as Father. John 5 is the chapter in the Bible with the second most references to God as Father. And what's happening here is Jesus has just gone to the feast. He's gone to Jerusalem, and he went to a pool called Bethesda. There was a man there who was paralyzed, and he had been for many, many, many years. And he said, do you want to walk? And the man said, I can't. And then he said, pick up your bed and walk, and he was healed. Amazing miracle. One problem, he did it on the wrong day. He healed him on the Sabbath. Big problem. And then look in verse 15. The man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who'd healed him. And this is why the Jews were persecuting Jesus, because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. Okay, picture this. You're doing youth work in your town, and you get the gift of healing. All right, you just start healing people. Wouldn't that be incredible? People come to you with various problems, you're healing them. And then the elders come to you and say, can't do that on Saturday. No, you just cut that out. It's really bad. You did it on Saturday. And in our church, we can't heal people on Saturday. And by the way, we're going to kick you out of the church because you healed on Saturday. That's kind of what's happening here. How would you respond? You might respond defensively. Who do you think you are? You might attack. Well, you don't care about people, and I do. That's why I'm healing. You might run. You might say, I'll find another church with elders who have no problem with healing people on Saturday. But look at what Jesus says in verse 17. He answers them, my Father is working until now, and I am working. Why did he start talking about his Father? Well, it's because he was secure in his identity. When people said, you're wrong, you're bad, he said, I know who I belong to, and I do what my Father does. I belong to him, and I do what he does. And you see Jesus just kind of, he's stable. He's not running. He's not attacking. He's not stopping what he's doing. He's just stable. And then this is why the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own father, making himself equal to God. And here's the thing, you see this in our PowerPoint. Identity brings value. Do you see what they're saying? They're saying, wait, you can't be God's son, because if you're God's son, that means you have this incredible value. You're equal with God. You can't do that. And listen, the fact that you are God's son and you are God's daughter immediately gives you great value, incredible value. And he was not devalued by their attack because he was so secure in the value he had from the Father. I remember as a child, sometimes on the playground, I don't know if you did this, about 10 years old, sometimes we'd start talking and we'd say, what does your dad do? My dad's, a garbage collector or something like that. And I was always very proud to say, my dad is the executive director of Overseas Christian Servicemen Centers. Now, I didn't really know what that meant, but it sounded really good. Like executive director, it was a mission organization, Overseas Christian Servicemen Centers. And immediately, it's interesting when children, if they know my dad's someone special, then automatically I'm special, right? Hey, that's, don't mess with me. My dad is executive director, Overseas Christian Servicemen Centers. Now, I am the second in our family. I have a sister, older sister, who is just about a year and a half older than me and really, really smart and really gifted. And because I was so close in age to her, next to her, I looked pretty dumb. She was speaking full sentences. I was just kind of, things like that. She knew everyone's names, knew all the colors. I would say, I would try to learn the colors, and I'd say, pass the green butter, and they would all go, it's not green. It shouldn't be green. It's yellow butter. And one of the things that I did, because she knew so much and I knew so little, was I began to talk very loudly, because at least that's how I could get my words in. One time we were arguing, my sister and I were arguing, and I said to her, well, Joyce, you don't know everything in the whole world. And she said, well, almost everything. So, yeah, really smart sister. My parents thought for a while that I was maybe a little mentally handicapped. And I'm serious. And they said, Dave, it doesn't matter if you're a smart boy, you just need to be a good boy. I don't know if that was an encouragement to me or not. But when I would talk loudly, my dad would say, Dave, you're going to be a great preacher someday. And I said, why is that? And he said, well, because preachers need to have strong voices, and you've got one. As a very small child, I remembered that, because those were identity words that were spoken into me from a father's voice. You've got a strong voice. You could be. Now he could say, you're going to be a real pain to a lot of people in the future. Why? Well, because you have such a loud voice. But instead, he spoke words of identity that were life-giving to me, and I remembered those for years. Oh, I gotta practice using that voice, because my dad thinks maybe I could be a good preacher. So these words, these identity words that come in a father's voice, you find Jesus standing firm because he knows who he is and whose he is. And because his father has spoken words of identity, these false words of identity or attacks just kind of bounce off of him. They just bounce off. They're not, they don't go deep. So this is what happens. Actually, if you go on to the next one, what, I don't know actually what that says. Go on to the next one. There we go. Symptoms. If you have gifts from the Father. So you might have gifts there. In your heart, you'll find some things, but then there'll be some symptoms on the other side. What you'll find is healthy giving and receiving. So this is what we find with Jesus. He gave identity to others. He received identity from the Father. There's this healthy giving and receiving. And actually, my dad was really good at giving identity words, and I had a pretty strong identity because of the identity he gave. Well, let's go on to the second one. As we go on in the passage, go back, keep the PowerPoint moving forward, all right? And then one more. Here's the second one, love. Now, the Pharisees are not satisfied with this. And look at verse 19. Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord. He only sees what the Father's doing. For whatever the Son does, the Father does, the Son does likewise. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all he's doing." Now, look back a little bit earlier. In verse 18, he says, they were persecuting him before. And in verse 18, they said, "Now we're going to kill you." Okay? You've healed on Saturday. The elders are mad. They tell you to stop. You say, "Hey, I'm just doing what my Father's doing." And they say, "Oh, now you've made us mad. We're going to kill you." It's time to change churches, right? But now, what would you do if someone's threatening to kill you? I mean, you could be paralyzed in fear. You could, again, run, attack. And look at what Jesus says. He says, the Father loves the Son. What if somebody came up to you and put a gun to your head and said, "I'm going to kill you," and you say, "Hey, before you shoot, let me just tell you something. My dad really loves me." Is that the way you'd act? You know? You might always say, "Can I give you money? Can I give you anything? Would you stop?" "Hey, but before you shoot, I just got to tell you, my dad really loves me." Why would he go to his Father's love for security? Well, my dad really loves me. What if you said, "My dad really loves me, and by the way, my dad is the chief of police for this town, and he's standing right outside the door with a bunch of other policemen who have bigger guns than you, by the way, and he loves me." This is what's really interesting, is that actually love brings security. Because if you know someone loves you, you know that they'll fight for you. You know that they'll come after you. You know that they'll sacrifice for you, that they'll rescue you. And if you know someone strong loves you, the one who's the commander of the angel armies, that's what your dad is, then this love gives you security. You know, this transformational prayer that you heard a little bit about, one of the things that we do in transformational prayer is to try to lead people to the love of the Father, to not just an intellectual experience, but an emotional experience of the Father's love. And there's some times where people would just, God's Spirit will begin to reveal the love of the Father, and they'll just be overwhelmed with his love. They'll just begin to experience it. And I always ask them, I say, "How do you feel right now?" And almost always this is the answer: "I feel safe." Isn't that interesting? I feel safe. And I wonder if this anxious generation that sees so many threats around them, so many potential problems, so many ways of failing, where the whole world is dangerous, if we aren't safe in the love of our Father, who also has all the angel armies and is in control of all the world, but he cares about us, that kind of love makes me safe. And there's really nothing else that will make me safe but the love of someone who's very strong and wise and trustworthy and good and capable and cares about me. And you say, Jesus says, "Hey, you want to kill me? My Father loves me." Let's go back to the other slide. So, what happens if that love is not there? Now, you saw a picture of my dad. My dad grew up on a farm, and he grew up in a divorced family. When he was 12 years old, his mom and dad came to him and said, "Mom's leaving. You can go with Mom or you can go with Dad." And he said, "I'll stay here with Dad." And the other two kids went with Mom. And it was just him and his dad at 12 years old to run an entire farm. So they had lots and lots of work to do. Now, he was close to his dad, but it was very much a working relationship with his dad, and he didn't have a mom. There wasn't much warmth in his home. And so my dad connected in work, and that's how he connected with me. I did a lot of work with my dad, but I never heard him say, growing up, "I love you." And he wasn't very good at expressing it physically. There's very little touch in our family. It was mostly, we worked together. We had a big garden. We did a lot of projects. We worked. That's what dads and sons do. We work. Had a lot of identity with that. But it was kind of thin on love that's experienced. And I remember I went away to Bible college and was just thinking about this and wanting to have a deeper relationship with my dad. So I said, when I come home on our next vacation, I'm going to hug my dad and tell him I love him. And I actually planned this for a long time. I had to really kind of get it all straight in my mind because we didn't do this in our family. So we got home and I came in the door and I said, Dad, it's so great to see you. And I gave him a hug, and it was like hugging a board. You know, he was like he didn't know what to do. And I said, Dad, I love you. And he was like, me too. I mean, he couldn't actually he couldn't say those words. This is what's interesting about God as Father. He actually says those words. He says, I love you. He talks about his love to you. The God of the universe, the powerful Father, he actually puts it into words. He puts it into actions. And he touches us in all kinds of different ways. Well, I was, kind of thin in this area in terms of what was in my heart. And it affects you. I fell in love with this girl, and at least that's what I was experiencing in my heart. I'm sure she knew that. We started dating, and her name was Connie, and we were dating kind of in an interesting way. I lived in Germany during this time, and she lived in Portland. And so we would send cassette tapes back and forth. This is back, prehistory, when the internet didn't exist. I know that's thousands of years ago. And so this was, and cassette, you know what I mean? They're about this big, and they have two little holes in them, and you put them in the thing and record. Do you know what that is? Okay, just trying to make sure. It's like stone tablets, but. And so what would happen would be I would push record and talk for 45 minutes, and then put it in a padded envelope and send it to Portland, and it would take a week to get there. Slow internet, and then she would open it up and listen to it, and then put another cassette. She'd keep it and put another cassette in and send it back. It's kind of a conversation with 2-week delay. That's really slow internet. Now the nice thing is that you could talk without getting interrupted, and that was nice. And I could listen to it whenever I wanted and think about my answers. So we were sending these back and forth, and one day I got my tape from her, and I thought, this is going to be so much fun. I got in the car to drive, and I put it in the tape thing and started listening to it. And she sounded a little strange, and she said, "Well, I want to start by singing a song." That was a little weird. She sang a song. And then she went, I know this might be a hard one I'm going to share. Yeah, I don't know, men, women, communication, women like to get everything just perfectly prepared. And guys we want to know, what are you going to say? Get to the bottom line. So it was clear that she was preparing something, and I didn't know what it was. And then finally she says, Dave, we've been dating a while, and I don't feel any love from you. It may be in your heart somewhere, but it doesn't come out. And I can't make you love me, but I'm not willing to be in a relationship like this. So I hope you find someone sometime you can love, but our relationship is at an end. And I tried to interrupt her, and I couldn't. No. So I felt this. It was like somebody kicked me in the stomach. I turned around. I went home, and I go, what do I do? And then I noticed that it was a little bit later in the afternoon, and my best friend lived in Portland, where she was. I'm going to call my friend Dave. So I called him up. I woke him up. He said, what? I said, Dave, my gut's hurting. I just got this tape from Connie. She just broke up with me. And she goes, oh, really? And I said, yeah. And he said, why did you? She said, I'm not loving her. And, oh, yeah, really. And I said, Dave, did you know anything about this? He goes, yeah. She talked to me about it. And I said, well, what did you tell her? I told her to do it. Break up with you. He said, she's right. You don't know how to love. It was like my former best friend. Ready to persecute him. It was just a shock to my system, but they were right. See, one of the things that happens is actually when we are undeveloped in one of these areas of our heart, we have a hard time passing it on. Like we might, and here's a couple things that happen. Let's go on to the next slide. When I had a vacuum in this area of love. Now, my dad didn't tell me he hated me, but I had a vacuum. And when we have vacuums, what they do is they either produce deadness. Let's say if we just take all the air out of this room, you just kind of go like this, or they produce like vacuums. We try to get it back, right? So either we just kind of go dead in that area, and do you know people who are like vacuums, like, do you love me? Do you love me? Love, love, love. Get a little bit more love. That wasn't quite enough. Let's get some more, and you just go, it's unending. Well, I was the other end. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, weak people need love, but not strong ones. No, not me. I don't need love. And so I was dead to love. And because of that, I remember one time a friend of mine just look at me in the eye and say, Dave, God really loves you. And I went, yeah. He said, no, he really loves you. Yeah, I know that. And then she stopped and she said, that doesn't touch you, does it? And it didn't. Like I felt nothing when you say God loves me. Well, yeah, guess that's probably true. It didn't make me feel safe or really do any change. I was dead to love. I was like a zombie. And so you find that if there are vacuums, that it produces either deadness or pulls. Do you see this in young people that you're caring for? Either deadness or pulls. Now, I'm giving you this example in love, but it can be the same as identity. I'm nobody and I don't care. I got no plans for my life and who cares? Deadness. Doesn't matter. Or the sense of, tell me who I am, tell me who I am. Am I valuable? Am I valuable? Do you think I'm valuable? Does he think I'm valuable? Oh no, he thinks maybe I'm a little bit, that kills everything. That guy over there that's not quite sure I'm valuable. And they're just like this vacuum cleaner all the time, trying to get that thing that they never had. By the way, what I did was I called up Connie and I said, you're absolutely right. I don't know how to love, and I really would like to learn. Would you help me? And she's been working on that for 33 years because she ended up marrying me. Yes. And I've learned so much about love from a wife who was willing to fight for that and help me learn how to love. So God can fill in these holes, and probably the most important thing was when I began to experience the love of my Father. Now I wonder what's going on in your mind when you're thinking about these things. Probably a lot. We've gone through two of the areas. We've gone through the area of identity, and we've gone through the area of love. We've talked about what happens if there's gifts and what happens if there's vacuums. By the way, tomorrow we're going to go into the other two areas and talk about some other symptoms. But I'd like us to just stop right now and start reflecting on ourselves, okay? Because one of the things is actually the best way for you to help young people in your youth group is for you to go first, right? For you start saying, where's my heart? And how can I get in touch with God's Father heart? And when you do, you'll be equipped to lead them to the same place that you've just gone. So what we're doing these days is not just talking about your young people, we're talking about you. That's why I'm talking about me, right? And so what I want you to do is I want you to do a couple things right now. First of all, at the end of this, there's just a little survey, father mapping, and you'll see that it goes through this area of identity with some questions. On the left, it's not true at all or very true. And then at the bottom, it says total, and so you can put the total of the number of the ones in that column. And so you'll find out if you have, 7 things in the fifth column or whatever. It just kind of shows you what's most in what column. And then love, the same kinds of questions. And then I want you to just look at these two areas of identity and value and love and security. We're not going to look at the bottom ones yet. And just kind of draw, just intuitively, like how big are the gifts and how big is the minus there? We're going to talk about something else tomorrow that we'll add. But if you thought, in that area, did I get lots of gifts and not much minus, or a lot of minus and not much gifts? Kind of intuitively write that. And then I've got some discussion questions for you. So first I want you to do a little self-evaluation. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do that, and then some discussion questions that I want you to do right with the people next to you. So let's do that. Maybe we can get a little bit of music going in the background while they're doing that so that we can concentrate. So do a little inventory of the Father areas of your heart. Is that enough time? You got it? So if so, why don't you break up into discussion groups of 3 to 4. So more than 2, 3 to 4, because I want some people that you don't know in it. And then you have 3 questions there. What was the most significant thought from this lesson for you personally? Have the 2 areas of identity and love, which is stronger for you, which is weaker? How do they think these 2 affect you today? Father, vacuums produce deadness and pulls. Do you see those 2 things express themselves in any area of your life? How does that impact those around you? So those 3 questions, will give you about 10 minutes to discuss those in a group of 3 or 4. Okay, that is on. It's on page 8. It's on page 8. Those 3 questions are on page 8. Thank you for discussing and for engaging personally in this. By the way, that's going to be the key to your experience this weekend, is if you're ready for God to speak to you and you're ready to kind of open it up and say, let me look inside. And you always feel a bit vulnerable when you do that. But my prayer is that by the end of these 4 days that you have a much deeper understanding of God's Father heart for you, and you're equipped to pass that on to the young people that you're shepherding. So let me just pray for that right now, and then we'll continue tomorrow. Father, it's so amazing that we get to call you by that name. You are the God who created the universe. You hold it in your hands. You're the commander of the angel armies. You're the sovereign Lord. You're in control of everything, and yet you care about me. And you care about every person in this room. You've adopted us. You chose us. And you called us your sons and daughters. And said that we have an inheritance with you, which is just amazing. And Father, we need those resources from you because we're not going to get them from the world around us. And they're going to be challenged and attacked by people and things around us as well. And we need them because we need to be able to pass them on. So I pray, God, that you would open up your Father heart to us in these next couple of days and do a miracle that we'll see and understand things that we couldn't see without revelation from your Spirit. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Hai să ne ridicăm și să cântăm în finalul acestei zile despre faptul că vrem să cunoaștem inima Tatălui.
Suflă un duh nou de viață peste lumea ce se învârte în ceață. Ridică-ți poporul tău sfânt să te declare real pe pământ. Mă dedic și mă las pus deoparte, mai aproape Duhul tău să mă poarte, căci nimic nu mă împlinește ca tine. Ești o pace ce rămâne în mine. Să cunosc inima ta, ca să simt ce simte ea și aștept să-mi vorbești. Tu, Iisus, în mine să trăiești. Suflă un duh nou de viață peste lumea ce se învârte în ceață. Ridică-ți poporul tău sfânt să te declare real prezența ta să mă bucur, Iisus, m-ai născut să mă închin. În prezența ta să mă bucur din plin, m-ai născut să mă închin. În prezența ta să mă bucur, Iisus, m-ai născut să mă închin. În prezența ta să mă bucur din plin, să mă închin, da, să mă închin, să cunosc inima ta, Iisus, ca să simt ce simte ea și aștept să vorbesc. Tu, Iisus, în mine să trăiești, să cunosc inima ta, ca să simt ce simte ea și aștept să vorbesc. Tu, Iisus, în mine să trăiești.
Amin. Puteți să mai ocupați locurile pentru câteva momente și câteva anunțuri. Nu știu cum e pentru voi, dar pentru mine simt că sesiunea asta a fost atât de valoroasă și a trecut instant. Așa că ce vă încurajăm este să vă luați notițe și și să profitați și de timpul pe care îl mai aveți acasă, știu că este puțin, să revizuiți notițele, să vă gândiți, să vă rugați, să procesați cu cineva de lângă voi, pentru că dacă doar suntem în timpul sesiunii atenți și atât, e foarte puțin și o să treacă foarte repede, așa că folosiți acest manual, este foarte, foarte tare. Bun. Vă încurajăm să purtați ecursoanele, ca să ajutați oamenii ca mine, care poate au făcut deja cunoștință și au uitat figura sau numele și să nu facem din nou cunoștință, plus să și vedem dacă e cineva care a venit de afară, care nu e de aici, cumva să ne recunoaștem ușor cine e de la conferință. Vă invităm să purtați ecursoanele. De asemenea, mai avem câteva anunțuri. Căștile de traducere, vă rugăm să le lăsați la finalul sesiunilor, la finalul sesiunii, să le lăsați la ieșire. Deci nu plecați cu ele acasă. Bun, o să proiectăm acum 2 coduri QR. Înscrierea la ateliere. Marea majoritate dintre voi v-ați înscris la un atelier, dar vă rugăm chiar acum, cei dintre voi care nu ați făcut-o, să scanați codul QR și să vă înscrieți la un atelier.